Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm doing a makeover on my mother. A few of you probably saw her like a couple years ago in my video. She's my model, so we're going to talk about some products that are really good for anti-aging and really good to wear if you do have more of a mature skin type. She's going to talk about her favorite products, and I'm going to mention products that I think are good for more mature skin with different skin types, and we're going to do a tutorial on this look for you guys. So if you are interested in learning on how to apply makeup or just some tips to refresh your makeup routine if you do have more mature skin, then just keep on watching. Okay, so now we're going to move on to primer. I think it's really important to use a primer for more mature skin because obviously it is going to help fill in. Are you laughing because I'm referring to it as mature skin? That's the polite way to use it, mature skin. So I really like a primer that for mature skin that's either going to moisturize or fill in, preferably both, and I really feel like the Bare Minerals Prime Time Brightening Primer does that. This is the one I personally use for myself. You use it. What do you also use? You like the original one. I know the Bare Minerals original. Do you use any others?
No, either
these two, and that's it. So we're just gonna do one pump. Hold it. Okay, so now that we have her skin prepped, we're going to move straight into foundation. I'm going to share with you guys a few of my favorite foundations as far as coverage goes and texture. I really like to use something that is hydrating and that isn't matte and flat, that's going to cling to pores. Now I know some women like that type of feel, like the Estee Lauder Double Wear. But for mature skin, I just always go with something that is hydrating and that almost has like a gel formula to it, because that will not sit in the fine lines. It really does a good job of staying on top of the skin. So I'm going to start out with her favorite, which is the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue. This is a newer product from Bare Minerals. It's actually a skincare product. It's not a makeup product. That's how they market it as. So this is going to help increase your skin hydration. I think the percentage is by 250% within like 2 weeks use. So you like this because it's lightweight, hydrating,
and the coverage is just enough.
The coverage on this now is not going to be full coverage, so you're not going to be looking at a fuller coverage with this product. So if you're that type of person that wants more coverage, I have a few more options. The next bump up in coverage, in my opinion, would be something like IT Cosmetics CC Cream, or this is the CC Plus Color Correcting Full Coverage Cream. Now this is, in my opinion, more of a medium coverage product, but it still feels very skin-like on. It does not adhere to dry areas on the face or any fine lines or wrinkles. So this is another really good option. Something else that I would suggest if you don't mind splurging. Now the IT Cosmetics is pricey as well, but this next foundation is kind of a splurge in my opinion. I think this was like my big splurge whenever I first started getting into foundations from other brands. This is Nars Sheer Glow, and this is an amazing foundation in my opinion. I actually suggested it to her friend Patty. Now Patty is a little bit older than you, isn't she? Okay, we're not going to say Patty's age, but hey Patty on here. So she actually chose this. I tried a couple different foundations on her when we were in Florida, and she chose Nars Sheer Glow, and I think that's what she's been using. I don't know if she's switched yet, but this is a really good option. It has a buildable coverage. You can do something like a light coverage with it, or you can build it up to medium coverage. So these are two foundations from MAC that are also very hydrating for your skin. This is MAC's Face and Body, which has been out for a really long time. A lot of professionals use this in the industry. This is more of a dewy finish foundation that's going to give you a lighter coverage. They say it's buildable to a medium coverage, but in my personal opinion, this is more on the lighter side. So if you're someone that likes that dewy finish, really natural glow, MAC Face and Body is a great option. They just came out with the new Studio Water Weight Foundation, and this one has a little bit more coverage to it. So you're really going to feel your face kind of flood with moisture when you apply this, but it also has, it can be built up to a medium coverage. Okay, so I'm going to start out with 2 foundations mixed. Obviously this isn't practical for everyone, but just from these suggestions that I gave you guys, you can figure out which one you think may work best for you. So I mixed Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue, because that is her favorite, with Nars Sheer Glow, just to bump up the coverage a little bit. Complexion Rescue is definitely going to give you that lighter coverage. I'm using a more of a stippling brush. This is the Bare Minerals Smoothing Face Brush, so you don't cake on too much product at once. A brush like this is really going to do a great job of evenly dispersing the product and not packing it all on in one section. So we're just going to lightly buff this into the skin. I generally start at the center of the face. That's where most people will want the most coverage. You can start basically wherever you have your biggest problem area and then work your way out. Okay, so now that we have the face evened out, Mom says that an area she has problems with are covering dark spots, freckles, things like that, which I think that if you, there's several, I don't think you have too many dark spots. I mean, there's like a couple, but I know several women that come into the store who have been exposed to the sun a lot in their lifetime and who have a ton of dark spots. That's a big issue for them. So I would highly suggest a high coverage concealer for something like that. And I'm going to use the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye on her. Now I know it says it's for the under eye area, but it's such a highly concentrated concealer that it's really going to do a good job of concealing these certain spots. And then we'll talk about concealers for under eye area and different things like that after we conceal the spots. So I would suggest going in and kind of concealing the next areas that you really want to cover, which for her would be the darker spots. So we're just going to take a little bit of the Bye Bye Under Eye. I've got it on the back of my hand here, and I'm just using this little buffing brush. I really like to use something that's going to buff the product in as opposed to something like a flat foundation brush. I'm trying to find mine over here, but I don't see it. Here it is. So something like this really doesn't buff the product in, and you don't really just want it to be laying on top of your skin. So we're going to do this, and we'll start out right here. And I love this product. Like, I probably should zoom in for you guys to see this better, but this concealer completely hid the dark spot she had right here on her cheek. So this is kind of my #1 for any type of dark area. It's a really great product for that. I actually don't love using it underneath the eyes. I think it's a little bit too thick for that, but for any type of area on the face that needs high coverage, something like this. At where we just covered the spots, you can see that they're pretty blurred out and you don't see the darkness peeking through as much. Another thing that's really important is you want to make sure you have the right tone of concealer. So if something's too light for you or too pink for you, it may appear more ashy on your skin, and that's going to bring out your dark spots or whatever you're trying to hide even more. So make sure you're using the right tone and the right shade of concealer. If you have more warmth in your skin, you're going to want to go with something that may have a little bit more yellow in it to cover those areas. And that, I'm really speaking in terms of like spots. I'm not speaking in terms of like highlighting your under eye area or things like that. You just want to make sure you almost have the same skin tone concealer as you're using for these spots, because you want to make it look like your actual skin. Okay, so now we're going to talk about concealer for the under eye area. I know several people will struggle with dark circles underneath the eyes. Same thing, if you have really, really dark circles, you're gonna want to go with something that has a little bit more of a high coverage to it that's going to actually cover and correct. But I don't think you really have that problem, but you do like to use a little bit of concealer underneath your eye, don't you?
I do.
Okay, so I have 2 suggestions, and the first one is MAC Studio Finish Concealer. This one is more of a cream concealer, and this isn't going to work for everyone in my personal opinion. It has a good medium coverage to it. But I do think because this is a cream concealer, the consistency, this may not be ideal for everyone's under eye area. I personally love it for me, and I have used it on other people, but I think a safer option would be something that's a little bit more liquid. I'm just throwing this out there in case you do prefer that cream consistency. The MAC Studio Finish is really good. But Mom really likes the new Bare Skin Concealer, which I like that too. It has a very thin, almost watery consistency, but it's very high coverage, isn't it? You only need a little bit of it. So do you normally like dab this underneath your eye? Like how many, do you do dots?
I do, just about 3.
3 dots on each eye? Okay. I'm only going to use about 2 because I found with this, less is more. It's really easy to overdo this, and you can always start out with less and work your way up. You're not trying to do like the Kim Kardashian highlight, anything like that. So, I mean, if you are, this is probably the wrong video for you. But we're just going to do a couple dots. One on the closest part of her lid, and then one more towards the outer part. And I'm just going to use a small buffer brush. This one's actually from e.l.f. It's called the Flawless Concealer Brush. It's really good for buffing in that product. You can also use your finger to tap, and the warmth from your finger will help melt the product in. I pretty much prefer using a brush for most things though. Okay, so we're going to move on to setting the face now. I generally like to use a translucent powder, which is what Mom said. She really likes to use the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil. This one I think is just a bump up for Mineral Veil. It's the IT Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores. It's a little bit, there's something in it. They say it has like silk in it or something like that. So I do think that it does hide pores a little bit better. It is a little bit more blurring. If you use the Bare Minerals Mineral Veil, it will work just fine. And if you're the type of person that wants extra coverage as far as like your powder goes, try to go with something that is a mineralized finish. So this is the LORAC Perfection Baked Powder, or you can use something like MAC Mineralized Skin Finish Natural. You want a powder that honestly has the lightest feel to it, because you don't want that powder kind of creping into any creases. You want something that has a very lightweight feel to it. So if you want something with more coverage, I would highly suggest going with something that is mineralized, that will give you a little bit more coverage but isn't going to be really matte or really cakey. So for dry skin, I generally just try to set the smallest surface area as possible. So through the T-zone, maybe a little sweep under the eye and the cheek, but I try to keep the face fairly skin-like looking, so a little bit dewier. If you have more of a dewy, or not dewy, more oily skin type, then obviously you can set your face to what you think it needs to be set to, whether that be, you know, something that's a little bit more mattifying, like a powder like this. It's up to you. You kind of have to judge it based on your skin type. So we're just going to take a little bit of the Bye Bye Pores powder, and I'm just going to press that into the skin. Try not to sweep, because then you're taking your product off. So we're just pressing this into the skin, and just from where I'm standing, I can tell a difference that this powder makes. I think it really does smooth out the skin, so this one is definitely one I would suggest. Okay, so so now we're going to move on to adding the color back into the skin, whether that be with blush, bronzer. We're going to do both. You like to use both, I know, you're a blush bronzer girl. So we're going to pick up a small amount, just a little tap, and for contouring, I mean, like, is contouring like a necessity for you?
No.
She did say she felt like contouring did hide her dark spots a little bit more, so that's what she says. But so I'm just going to turn face for me, and basically we're not going to do that 3 motion that people talk about. If you want to contour your cheeks, just go in and just slightly start brushing downward. Try not to go back and forth and drag it. Just kind of tap downward. Really, you can do it slow, you can do it fast like I'm doing. I mean, if you're new to it, you may want to do it slower. But just add a little bit of definition to that area. Then I'm going to bring the excess up here. I'm not going to bring any really downward. We're going to go in with the It Cosmetics bronzer for that. But just to define the cheeks, that's what I would suggest. Get some type of angle brush like this. It's the easiest brush to do for this method. And then just slightly tap. I mean, that's really all you have to do. Make sure you have a small amount of product on your brush and you have a little bit of definition added back into your face. I'm going to go back in with that It Cosmetics Bye Bye Pores bronzer. This obviously isn't a necessity, but I like to use something like this that obviously has that poreless finish to it all over the face, because what we just did throughout here was just to define the face. If you don't care about contouring or adding definition, just take some type of powder or bronzer on a big brush like this and just sweep all over to add a little bit more color back into the skin. For blush, I'm going to suggest really anything that's matte. A matte blush I think always flatters more mature skin. Or if you prefer that dewy finish, something like a blush balm or a cream blush. This one is from Bare Minerals. Something like this looks very hydrating and very youthful on the skin. The only type of blush I would suggest staying away from is something that's packed highly with either glitter or shimmer, because that really does emphasize the pores or any fine lines that you may have. For matte blushes, Bare Minerals makes great matte blushes. The shade I'm going to use today is called Sorbet. It's a really refreshing pink. It's very forgiving, I guess is what I'm trying to say on the skin. It's not too pink. It's not too pale. It's a perfect amount of color, so I think that's the one I'm going to go with today. MAC also makes a ton of matte blushes. So this one right here is called Melba. Mom, I know, likes a lot of peachy, like coral tones. You probably can't see her shirt today. She's wearing peach. But she loves peachy coral tones for her lip colors and for her blushes. So this would be something that I know that she would gravitate towards. Do you want to use this one instead? Sure. Okay, we'll use Melba instead then. So on her, I'm just going to apply a small amount to the apples of the cheek, which people say that makes your cheeks look rounder. I don't know, for some reason I think it makes you look a little bit more youthful. When women have their blush pulled up all the way to their hairline, I don't think that looks flattering. So I try to stop to where the end of the eye is for the blush. And it's not like we're packing a ton of blush on. Turn that way. We're just packing small amounts on. We're just using ever so slightly. To wear highlighter, and I generally don't recommend highlighter for mature skin because most highlighters have those shimmering particles in them. She loves highlighter though, so we're not going to knock it. So my personal suggestion, if you like highlighter, Again, find something that's really finely milled. Laura Geller makes a really pretty one that Emily Noel always talks about. Shout out to Emily Noel. We both watch Emily. And it's called the Baked French Vanilla Highlighter. Something like that would be perfect for mature skin because it doesn't have those shimmer particles swimming throughout it, and it is very forgiving and really flattering on the skin. Bare Minerals also makes one that this is what I'm going to use today because this is really the only one that I have that I think is really flattering. This was actually a multitasking highlighter from their holiday collection. It was limited edition, so that's why I hate talking about it. But this is a very finely milled product. It doesn't have those shimmer particles in it. It has like a very subtle sheen to it though, which is really pretty. But something like Champagne Pop from Jaclyn Hill or Becca's Opal, that's just a little too much in my opinion, but I'm not trying to tell anyone not to do something if they like it. So I'm just going to take a little bit of that highlighter and really focus it just down the cheek. Move into brows. For anyone that has a thinner brow shape, I would suggest using a really tiny micro pencil like the Anastasia Brow Wiz. This one is really good if you do have that thinner brow shape. If you're a little bit more on the thicker side for your brows, this is the one that I use, and this is the Hourglass Arch Brow Sculpting Pencil. This one definitely has more of that thicker bullet tip to it, whereas the Anastasia one is going to be better suited if you do have that thinner brow shape. So I'm going to start at more of the tail of the brow and just make really light strokes. You don't want to just take your pencil and draw it on. Really, I mean, I feel like that's common sense for most people, but I still see people that I'm pretty sure that do that. So you just want to make really light, feathery strokes. Because especially with the Brow Wiz, this was designed to actually mimic the look of hairs if you do small strokes like that. So just make small strokes, follow the shape of your brow. If this is your first time, don't try to get too crazy and, you know, do like the Instagram brow or anything. Just really take your time and work on filling in the actual areas appropriately. Oh, your ipsy points.
Yeah.
So when you get to the front of your brow, that's where you want to be a little bit more careful. And this is going to vary for everyone. Obviously, not everyone's going to have the same brow shape as my mom, but kind of the same deal. Just be really soft with the front of your brows, because if you get too hard or too square shape, if you draw a big square there, it's going to look like you're mad. And I think that really makes you look old, so you don't want to look old. So that's the opposite of this tutorial. So just again, be soft with it. I know some people really like to use the brow stencils, which Anastasia herself actually uses on her clients. She still uses the brow stencils. So that's not something that I've ever really like wanted to dabble in, but if you feel like you can't get a good brow shape, you may want to look into those. I have no advice on those though. That's just like last resort, I guess. Okay, so what do you like to do for eyeshadow? Do you like shimmer or matte? What do you prefer?
A little bit of shimmer.
A little bit of shimmer.
Right, natural.
But not like metallic or anything.
No.
The biggest complaint I have or when women come in and they have hooded eyelids like both of us have. I know not everyone has hooded eyelids, but most women who are older don't like shimmer. They don't like that metallic look. They always want matte colors. I guess I should get the matte palette out.
I like a little bit of shimmer.
Okay, shimmer girl over there. So if you're a person that really likes a basic everyday look that's all matte, Urban Decay makes a great palette called the Naked Basics palette. You can get this in, this is the first one. They also have another one called Naked Basics 2. It's more of a cooler undertone. I personally prefer this one. And then my favorite matte palette of all time is probably the IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette. And this is an all matte palette with a variety of shades. There's so many different shades. But the reason I would suggest these to pretty much anyone is because they're super easy to blend and apply. They're not chalky. They go on with just the right amount of pigmentation, and they're really easy to just apply and blend. So I think we're gonna stick with this one today, but I am going to add a pop of shimmer in for my mom. What color should
I also have that.
Yeah, she uses this palette as well. This is one of my all-time favorite palettes. I love it.
You have everything.
Okay, so I'm going to start out with an eye primer. This is MAC's Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. It's just a skin tone color. If you do have a hooded eye shape, it pretty much is a necessity to use an eye primer. I have hooded lids. They're oily. My shadow comes off throughout the day. I'm pretty sure you have that same problem, right? You use an eye primer?
Yes, I do.
But does your shadow stay on throughout the day without one?
I would say probably not.
Not as well?
Right.
Yeah, so primer, always a must if you want your shadows to stay on. Okay, for my mom's pop of shimmer, and if anyone else is kind of wanting to incorporate shimmer into the look, I'm just using a soft skin tone color. This is Kitten from the Stila and the Lights palette. They make this shade individually if you want this particular shade. But the key when using shimmer on more mature lids is to really not use it all over the lid like a disco ball. So what I'm going to do is just close your eyes. What do you do that?
No,
okay.
I don't.
So what I'm going to do is just place it on the lower part of the lid. That way when you look down, you kind of have that, you know, that shimmer effect. It's not going to be all over your lid.
I do that.
You put it all over your lid?
No.
You just
exactly
do this.
the way you're doing it.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you should just teach them then instead of me. Here you go. Take your Sigma brush and show them. Okay, so now we're going to move into the IT Cosmetics Naturally Pretty palette after we've applied that shimmer shade to the lower lid. I'm going to pick up this transition shade. It's called Warmth. It's just a really soft brown color. It does not have a ton of like richness to it. It's not like a dark brown shade. So it's really easy to work on the outer part of the lid and also into that crease if you're wanting to add definition in there. This is just something I remembered. If you're wanting to create a crease, if you have hooded eyelids and you don't really have that defined crease area, something like this brush from MAC, this is the 221. It's a really kind of, it's not stiff brush, but a very, what would you call this, just small, precise brush. So it's really going to get into that crease area, and if you take your time with it, you can, turn this way, you can create that kind of crease shape with a smaller brush like this. I'll kind of show you how. start getting into more of the richer shades. I'm using the shade called Mocha right here, which is a little bit darker. And this is where we're going to go in and add the kind of depth and extra definition. So the important thing to remember with a dark shadow, and especially on hooded lids, is to not take it into the crease too far. You really want to apply your darkness to your outer part of your eye, and that's going to add the definition in. When you start going back and forth with your dark colors, that's when it can look a little raccoonish. So okay, for the darkest color, we're going to use Java, which is this really rich chocolatey brown in here. This is probably the darkest we're gonna get as far as the colors go. You don't want to have like black snooky eye going on. So again, just blend this in the outer part. Don't take it up into the crease. Just really take the time to work it in the outer part of your eye and make that where your definition stands out. The Sheer Joy color right here as a highlight. It's just a bone color. We're just going to place that underneath the actual brow bone. So now we're going to move into eyeliner, which is her least favorite part. She hates doing the liner. For the lower lash line, she just likes to place the liner on the outer part, which if you watch any of my tutorials, you know I do not do that. Hate to say it, it's a little outdated, but I'm going to force her to wear eyeliner in the waterline today. So for hooded eyelids or any eyes that may have, you know, like any type of droop or any type of wrinkle to them, I really prefer a softer pencil. I don't like to suggest liquid liners. I think they really enhance those areas and kind of, I don't know, what do you think? You don't like liquid liner, do you?
Not really.
Yeah, I think it's too sharp, I guess, for the eye area. So I'm using this one from Lancome. This is their new Drama liquid pencil. I just got these in, so I've never tried them before, but I've swatched them and they feel really nice, really smooth. So just close for me. And sometimes what I suggest is just focusing your line, like start midway and then pull out. That's generally the easiest for me. And then sometimes you don't even have to go into your inner corner of your eye, because I mean, especially when you have like a hooded shape, a lot of the times there's no point in bringing your eyeliner all the way inward to your eye, because it's either going to rub off or you just won't be able to see it. So a lot of the times I will take my eyeliner, especially if I'm doing like a flick, and I'll just start right here and I won't bring it in anymore. I'll start right here and then I just bring it out and kind of elongate the eye. So I'll kind of show you what I'm talking about here. I've not went in all the way, but actually on her eye you can actually still see her inner corner, so I guess we're gonna bring it on in. On mine you can't, so I'll just leave it alone, but I guess we'll go ahead and go all the way in. So my eyes are more hooded than yours.
Mine are droopy.
I like the sun liner. It goes on really smooth.
Good.
Oh, I don't think I said the color of this. This is called Brunette. So I should talk about colors too with eyeliners. I generally always go with a dark brown. I'm never one to put black on someone unless they request it. I always think black is made for harsh look. Well, not harsh looks, but for more dramatic looks, smoky eyes, things like that. A brown pencil, good dark brown pencil is good enough for every day. Even for, you know, like a more bumped up look, because the eyeshadow I have on her is definitely more than what you would wear for every day, isn't it? Take the time to do. Yeah.
Pretty much.
So, just close for me. We're going to do liner on the bottom. Now what she likes to do is normally take her eyeliner like starting right here and just pull out. I recommend actually applying your liner in the waterline. So you're gonna have to deal with it. Just look up and we'll make it quick. So I'm actually using this in the waterline right now. I'm going to pick up that mocha shade. It wasn't the darkest color. It was that first transition shade, or that first definition shade we went in with. And look up for me. And I just like to softly blend this out so you don't just have that harsh kind of lines sitting there all day. So just add a little bit of shadow. Wear lip liner normally, but I'm actually a fan of lip liner, especially I know a lot of women, mature women like the lip liner, okay? But I'm going to use some lipstick suggestions. It Cosmetics just came out with this really neat lipstick formula. It's called Blurred Lines Smooth and Fill Anti-Aging Lipstick. So for those of you who may have like the fine lines around the lip area, this is going to be a really good option for you because it has like a gel formula and it really does fill in those areas and it keeps it from like cracking and creping. I also like the Too Faced, I don't even know what these are called, the La Creme, isn't that what these are called? The Too Faced La Creme lipsticks. Anything that is very rich and moisturizing should work well on you. Now, I know some women like the liquid lipstick thing. I think that emphasizes the lines in your lips. It's just not flattering in my personal opinion. Now, for lip liner, I'm not saying go out and get, you know, a red, a purple lip liner. I'm going to use something soft and natural. This is Boldly Bare by MAC. It's pretty much just like her natural lip color, but better. And we're not going to overline. I'm really just going to follow the natural shape of her lips. Everyone is obviously going to have their preference for lipstick colors. She generally sticks with neutrals. I like this shade right here because it's a neutral, but it does give color. Just open for me a little bit. This was called Honey Bear by Too Faced. Throw that together.